Hi everyone, I'm Harrison with Audio Advice, and today I'm going to be going over the Sony STR-AZ5000ES home theater receiver. We've been huge fans of Sony at Audio Advice for over 40 years. While most people think of Sony as making amazing TVs and projectors, their home theater receivers have been highly regarded by some of home theater enthusiasts for as long as home theater has been around. They have always been built like tanks with great sound and lots of useful features. But in the ever-evolving world of home theater, it has been almost a decade since Sony showed us some new models. The previous ones came out right after Dolby Atmos was introduced with its immersive audio technology, but a lot has changed in the home theater world since then. Sony had sent us one of the first units to come into the US back in 2022, and we were so happy after we had a chance to put it through its paces. And the great news is they now have 4 new home theater receivers that cover a pretty wide price range, yet share a lot of the same tech. The STR-AZ5000ES, however, is the one that I feel by far and away will give you the most bang for the buck when you are starting to assemble a high-performance home theater. So let's dive in and take a look. With 11 powered channels built in, the AZ5000 will let you put together a fully immersive home theater experience with fronts, center, surrounds, rears, and 2 pairs of Atmos speakers. These will be powered by an amp section rated at 130 watts per channel with 2 channels driven. But when you look at the massive power supply and the 42-pound weight of this beast, you know it will be able to deliver some real punch even when you have hard-to-drive speakers. And should you ever want more power, you've got preamp outs for all of the channels. It's also nice to see Sony catch up to everyone else on the network side of things. The AZ5000 has Bluetooth, Chromecast, Wi-Fi, AirPlay, Spotify Connect, and it integrates seamlessly with Sonos. Super cool. Video-wise, I was pleased to see all of the latest and greatest tech built in. You get 8K and 4K 120 HDMI connectivity with HDMI 2.1 and HDCP 2.3 with support for HDR, Dolby Vision, HDR10, hybrid log gamma, and IMAX enhanced. 4 of the inputs on the rear handle 8K, while 2 on the rear and a convenience HDMI port on the front will do 4K 120. And gamers will love that the 4K 120 inputs support ALLM and VRR for the best in low latency gaming. The audio side of things is where the AZ5000 takes things to a new level. I've never seen some of this tech in any home theater receiver in the past. It's like Sony wanted to cover every possible situation you might run into in your home to allow you to get immersive surround even if you are unable to physically run speaker wires. For immersive surround, the AZ5000 supports Dolby Atmos and DTS:X. To help those who may not want to run cables for some speakers, they all support adding Sony's wireless SA-RS3S and SA-RS5 wireless surround speakers, as well as SA-SW3 and SA-SW5 wireless subwoofers. And these are actually pretty decent sounding wireless surround speakers, and while I would much prefer adding speakers that match your main brand of speakers, this is a pretty cool option for those of you living in apartments or living spaces where it's just impossible to run wiring for surrounds, and you could use either of this wireless surround speaker options to at least get more immersion than you would without them. Along the same lines, they also let you use the speakers in a compatible Sony TV for your center channel. Again, I would not recommend this unless you had no space for a center channel, but it is pretty neat to see them cover all of the possibilities out there. They also all have phantom rear speaker mode that you can turn on to simulate rear speakers. This is not a simulation of your main surrounds, but the rears in a 7-channel bed layer system. And in my testing, this actually worked pretty well. In a lot of new construction installations and family rooms, we see people do 3 in-ceiling speakers for the left, center, and right. In earlier models, Sony added a feature that you could turn on to make it sound like these were more on ear level, and it worked pretty well. But with the new way you set up these Sony receivers, it should work even better. So this is where it gets really interesting. If you've played around with home theater receivers that will automatically adjust the distance for all of your speakers based upon some test tones, you've probably seen most of them be off by what can sometimes be several feet. Sony has turned that idea on its head and asks you for more measurements than I have ever seen before. So before you can start calibrating any of these new Sony receivers, you'll probably want to get a laser tape measure. This on-screen menu is a home theater geek's dream come true. It has a big grid that lets you assign video and audio to any input, or you can do a custom mix for those of you that like to watch sports and listen to the local radio personality. You have offset levels and default surround modes for each one, and you can assign up to a 300 millisecond delay for any lip sync issues your source may have. You can even turn on or off the sub output for each input. Now next, you jump to the speaker settings. I have to say, I just love the visuals Sony uses here in the speaker patterns section. With all of the different types of speakers you could use for a home theater, the names can be confusing, but seeing the type of speaker and where it's actually placed makes it perfectly clear on what you see on the screen matches your actual speaker layout. You'll first enter the normal settings of where you are from each speaker. That is where almost every other home theater receiver stops, but not these new Sonys. You'll then enter the distance each one is from your screen, and there are some cool green lines that help you get a reference point to measure from. Next, you tell it how far each speaker is off the floor. Finally, you'll input the distance your ears are from both the floor and the ceiling. While this may seem like a bit of extra work, when I thought about it, it gives Sony's Digital Cinema Auto Calibration IX and 360 Spatial Sound Mapping more data to actually work with. And in theory, this should get us more immersive surround with objects better placed in space. And I have to tell you, in our listening tests, this all came true as the AZ5000 put out one of the most precise sound fields that I've actually ever heard, almost on par with what I've heard out of a $20,000 plus Trinnov. When we first got our sample of the AZ5000ES, we set it up in a high-end 2-channel system to check out its audio performance quality. And the sound was pretty amazing for a home theater receiver. To us, it sounded like a very good British amp with a completely neutral sound that neither leans toward warmth or bright, but right in the middle where it should be. The rhythm and pacing was also really good for a home theater receiver. Popping the cover off and taking a look inside, it's easy to see why the AZ5000 sounds so dang good. Sony starts out with a very solid frame that got much thicker for the 2023 models to stabilize all of the components and its massive power supply. This is attached to anti-resonant feet, and the digital circuit board even has different length fins designed to reduce resonances. Now that's attention to detail. The 32-bit DAC has a new analog power supply for a pure power feed. You'll also see these unique looking resistors called Fine Sounds Resistor by Sony that use a high amount of copper for a pure sound. Sony even developed a special ES high purity solder for better sound as well. After the 2-channel listening test, we set the AZ5000 up in a theater in one of our demo rooms. We went through inputting all of the measurements, then got to the special microphone, which has 2 wings with a clearly labeled left and right mic. Even the auto calibration will ask for some of the measurements we did earlier. You do 2 passes with 2 different points for the microphone that are impossible to mess up as the little stand has cutouts for the Sony mic. I also like the fact that the whole little assembly had a threaded insert for the tripod stand. Now in our testing, we did come up with a way to take these measurements we felt gave far better results. Now when you purchase your Sony receiver from Audio Advice, we'll provide you with our special tips and tricks that go over what we learned and several other quick tips to get the most out of your system. We played some of our favorite Atmos test tracks. The dive bomber scene from Midway really just stood out on this. It was amazing how the bullets and shellfire tracked above and all around us. Just incredible. We were almost ducking. We also did some testing playing Call of Duty Warzone, and it had super precise placement of all the details around you. From footsteps to reloading, we were able to pinpoint other players, which gave us a leg up in the competition and immersed us even deeper into the game. It was clear to me and everyone listening, there truly must be something to all the data Sony asks you when you are doing the setup for this. So with all of its greatness, what is there not to like? Well, not much. I do wish it had separate subwoofer outputs that let you calibrate multiple subs individually. However, so many new subs coming out with room calibration built in, that is not a super big deal. You do get 2 parallel sub outputs, and you could easily set up dual subs to get great performance, especially if you watch our subwoofer setup video that we will link below. When you consider the price point of the new STR-AZ5000ES and how amazing it places immersive effects into your room, it has to be one of the best value home theater receivers for those of you looking at a higher channel count theater. And I can honestly highly recommend this incredible receiver as one of the best AVRs on the market for its cost. While it's been a long wait, it turns out it was well worth it with the new Sony receivers. I hope this overview has given you a good insight into the new Sony STR-AZ5000ES home theater receiver. If you want to learn more, visit our website where we offer free shipping, a price guarantee, and lifetime expert support. And if you have more questions, reach out to us at audioadvice.com and our experts would be happy to help you out. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the notifications so you don't miss out on any of our latest and greatest content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.